Hello everybody, and welcome to what is and will be the last episode of Volks Vanventure Vlogs. I'm your host, David J. Murphy. Thank you for joining me today on this rather dreary November evening. Anyways, why is this the last episode of Volks Vanventure Vlogs? You might ask. Well, I'm actually returning the Bluebell. That's why I named her. Yeah, I've had her for a year now. So not only is this the last episode of the Volks Vanventure Vlogs, but it's also basically a one-year review of what it's like to own a Volkswagen ID Buzz. So during this video, I'll be talking a little bit about the pros and cons of owning the Buzz, whether or not you should make the Buzz something you should own, and just overall my thoughts and feelings about having the vehicle and what I think you should know about it before you potentially purchase one. I think the biggest question, first and foremost, is why am I returning it, right? Well, I'm actually returning it via the Virginia Lemon Law. It's not that it's a bad vehicle, but I experienced some very kind of touchy brake issues. As you might know from the first couple episodes in the series, I was driving, road tripping, if you will, cross country to Las Cruces, New Mexico. And it was there that I, basically camped out in it. And then I drove it back to Maryland in around April time frame. And I started to notice that the brakes were very touchy. And this was kind of an issue for me because I just had this brand new vehicle and now the brakes are all kind of touchy, right? So I'd slow down, I'd be depressing my foot on the brake pad and it would abruptly stop. And it was very annoying because I'm slowly depressing it and then it's just So it was because of that primary reason that I decided to return it. I did take it to the dealership. They tried to fix it. They couldn't fix it. They had it for a month, which is one of the requirements in order to have a vehicle even be eligible for return via the Lemon Law. And so once they said they couldn't fix it, I was like, well, I guess I got to say goodbye to her. Now, other issues I had included issues with the brake pads, making lots of sound, especially in the morning. And thankfully, I had a dealership fix the brake pads, replace those. So that has not been an issue again thus far. But the braking issue still persists. And I was told that it might be a issue with the e-brake and the rotor brakes and them not communicating correctly or something. I don't really know. But I'll let Volkswagen figure it out. Hopefully it's just a software issue. They can figure it out. And then, maybe in the 26 model year or something, they'll have it fixed out. But I will say, what am I going to replace this with? Right? That's kind of like the big question I have to answer for myself. And at this point, I don't really know. I have thought about replacing it with another Volkswagen van, because if it has the same issue, I'll just go through the same process of returning it. But I'm also looking at the Toyota Sienna, the Chrysler Pacifica. There's Kia. Kia's the EV9, which is an SUV technically, but they do have a van concept on the way. So those are all potential opportunities and possibilities for what I might replace this with. It'll be sad to see it go, but I'm excited to see what it could come out with in the future. I'm really excited to see if Kia actually brings their van to the United States. I know they have it in Korea right now, so who knows? Maybe I should hold out for that. Anyways, we'll see. But let me take you through the pros and cons of what it was like owning the Volkswagen ID Buzz for a year. All right, so let's start where I think is probably the most important place to start, the back. And yes, I am wearing something different. This is a different day. Excuse the mess a little bit in here. But I think obviously the first thing and most important thing that has to be said about why I like the VW Buzz is because of all this trunk space, right? I've used this to camp in. I've used it to haul camping equipment for when the family and I went on a camping trip. I've hauled my camera gear multiple times, so it's been really indispensable to have all this space back here. The one thing I don't like about the trunk area is the automatic foot detection sensor. So if I'm going in here and I'm doing something in the back, usually my feet are right under the bumper, which means I accidentally trigger the sensor that lowers this door. And I've had this door lower on me multiple times, have had it lower on my family multiple times, just because, you know, again, it's so easy to trigger. What's funny is I can't trigger it now for some reason, but, you know, again, when I've used this throughout my time having it, the thing would trigger automatically all the time, and it would be very annoying, and I don't know how to turn it off, if there is even a way to turn it off. But that's a con. Let me go to a pro, and I think one of the best features of the Buzz, in my opinion, at least something I've never seen on any other vehicle, is this little 12-volt outlet back here, cigarette style. You plug in. What's great about it is that it's always on. So for instance, I have this Bodega electric cooler here, and it always gets power all the time, day and night. And so when I was camping, this was my refrigerator. I have a fridge section over here, a freezer section over here, and both stay running without issue for the most part. I've only ever had it, there's the beep. See, I accidentally triggered it. And if I were to move, it would close. And anyways, that it's going to be beep for a bit. So again, really annoyed by that thing, but I love the little outlet here and the constant power supply it provides to anything you might want to plug into it. But like I said, I found the most use for it with a cooler. So again, those are some of the pros from the back of the vehicle. Also, again, love the outlets back here. They were very valuable when I was camping in it. And then again, you can fold down the second row as well and get even more space, as I've shown you in many of my previous videos. That allowed me to, like I said, camp in it without much issue. I guess in that same note, I wish the second row seats were just as easy to remove as the third row seats, because I could have definitely used that extra space when I was camping. But, you know, it is what it is. So I think that's everything I can think of from the back of the vehicle. Let's go ahead and move on to the front. Hello again. Well, we're in the front of the vehicle. Lots of good things to say about what's up here. Let's talk about the seats. First and foremost, these things were super comfortable. It has this little extension down here for your thighs. I've never really used them much, but I'm glad they're there. Some of the big positives for me were the fact that the seats are ventilated and heated, which was really nice on warmer days and really nice on colder days as well. Also, the heated steering wheel, big plus, love that. Had never had one of those before. Well, I never had the ventilated seats or the heated steering wheel before, so it was all new, all great. Oh, and of course the massage capability, really nice. You don't really like feel it too much. You know, it's not like a deep tissue massage or anything like that. It's just a nice little something to kind of, you know, relax you a little bit. I really like that feature. So another thing I like about the vehicle is the heads-up display, the center console, everything here, really informative, lots of controls, like all of it. The only downside is that sometimes like Android Auto wouldn't connect, and so that was a little bit annoying, but most of the times it resolved itself after not too many issues. And some, you know, a lot of times plugging in the vehicle or plugging in the phone directly into the vehicle solved those issues. I definitely liked down here, you have the buttons that allow you to open the sliding doors remotely. I like the glove box, lots of good space down there. Also space over here above the glove box, which I could stick stuff in. A little bit of crevice right here for sticking my phone in, although I wish it was a little bit bigger. It's kind of small. I also wish that it could charge the phone. So I've seen a lot of these cars nowadays that have like little wireless charging spots where you place your phone. Wish there was something like that in here. One of the things that I really didn't use much, and while I think is cool, is kind of a little bit of an overrated feature if you ask me, is the tinting ceiling, or the clear glass ceiling. It is fun to play with, and it's a neat feature to show people, but honestly, sitting up here in the front row, I barely notice it. And, I have a roof rack up there, which, obscures most of my view, so it's not like I'm really getting much use out of it anyways. I do like these dome lights, the fact that they're touch sensitive, that's really neat. Something I don't like about the vehicle is its inability to have any kind of camp mode attached to it. So, for instance, like I said, I did lots of camping in this, and it would have been really nice on certain cold nights to have constant heat flowing through the vehicle, but I couldn't do that. Now, there were some hacks where people put like weights on the front passenger or front driver's seat to activate the vehicle, but even with that, you only get about an hour's worth of time before it shuts off automatically no matter what. So there really is no workaround for it. They will not let the vehicle run all night. I don't know why VW can't figure it out, but companies like Tesla can. If there were a camping mode out in the future, that would be a godsend. Some other pros and cons, I would say not a con or a pro, but I do like this twisty knob here for the changing of direction. I like the knob here for all of your windshield wiper controls. I'm kind of indifferent towards the steering wheel buttons and the touch sensitive capacitive buttons here. They don't really bother me, like I know they bother some people. I don't really touch these too often. I don't accidentally touch them, so they don't bother me. Lots of space on the door on the side here. The rear, to open the rear windows, I think is unnecessary. I wish there were just 4 buttons for me to control all 4 windows. It seems like a really inefficient efficiency, if you ask me. I have to press a button to change all 4 windows, but I do like the California mode. The ability to basically just hold the rear button and then have access to all 4 windows and roll them up or down. That's really neat. I like the armrest. This is very comfortable. There is an armrest on the left-hand side, which I barely, if ever, used. I think unless I deliberately thought to use it, I never used it because I can put my arm right here. So it's not really all that convenient. And honestly, when you're trying to get in and out of the vehicle, the fact you have to lift it up every time makes it almost completely superfluous. So if there was ever a thing to cut in the future when it came to cost savings, my recommendation would be the left-hand armrest. Another big positive about the front of the vehicle is the view. I thought that the increased elevation off the ground, as well as just this really wide panel glass, made driving a breeze, being able to see everything. Some people have talked about the fact that there's these columns here that obscure vision, but honestly, they didn't bother me too much at all. I got used to them very quickly, and you kind of just forget they're there in your peripheral vision, so they never bothered me. Beyond that, I like everything else in here. Nothing really to talk about. Your typical vanity little mirror thing going on with lights. Simple, easy. I put a little garage door opener up here. You've got an SOS button. I never used it. You've got your dome light button, which turns everything on, which is great. Like I said, this console system works just fine. You got cup holders down here. I have the center console right here, which I use to hold stuff, mostly junk right now. A lot of junk down here, so really not anything worth seeing. And that's pretty much it for the front of the vehicle in terms of everything I have to say about that. Now let's go into the vehicle. All right, let's get in here Sorry, a little messy. That's what it's like when you have a family. So we're inside the vehicle right now, and I'm sitting in the second row. Excuse the noise in the background. But the second row as well as the third row, both super roomy and really like it. I can have these wonderful captain's chairs with their armrests and everything back here, just like the first row. I do wish these other rows had the same heated and ventilated seats. They do have the heated seats, of course, but not the ventilated seats. Not that's really been much of a complaint for my family at all, but just something to keep in mind. Otherwise, though, the big selling point, of course, of this vehicle is the massive amount of room for your passengers. Obviously, the reason we got it was because we have a growing family that needs the space. And so having the ability to really just stretch out here, I'm not the tallest guy in the world. I'm only 5'9", so I'm not the best example. But, again, I got acres of headroom, acres of legroom up here. This chair has a lot of different options, reclining back and everything like that. So really no complaints about the second row, except for one. It's the fact that I can't access anything in the door when it's closed. Now, obviously, duh, of course you can't, but it's still very annoying when, my kid leaves something back there and I have to get in the vehicle, close the door, grab it. But, there really isn't an alternative way unless you just don't have the pockets on the side, and I'd much rather have the pockets. There have been some instances where we've had books and other sort of things they put in there get stuck between the closing mechanism and the side of the vehicle, which has been really scary and annoying because sometimes it jams in there and you can't get the door closed, you can't get it out. It's only happened a couple times, but it does sometimes happen. So be very mindful of what you're putting in the door pocket and make sure it's not like sticking out or anything like that over the edge of the door, because it can get caught in the sliding mechanism. I do like the fact that there's a little, button here for opening and closing the sliding door. And again, up here, you've got a light as well as the temperature controls. Although my kids fight over the temperature controls, so I don't know if it's necessarily a net positive or a negative. And then you've got little pockets here for holding things. And then you can also move the center console into the center area. I have thought about maybe just getting a second one and putting it in here. And then maybe if I weren't turning in this vehicle, I would do that. But as of right now, it lives in the front. But I'm glad to know that I can move it to the front or the center if I would like. Otherwise, though, really comfortable back here. I don't sit back here myself much, but again, the kids enjoy it. There's really no complaints from them, and that's a net positive in my opinion. I'm not going to go to the third row because it's a whole big thing to lift the seats up and move back there. Basically, it's kind of like the second row, a little bit, I would say, less headroom back there because you don't have the glass ceiling above the third row. But again, I've had full-size adults in every row of this vehicle, and no one has complained about either legroom or headroom. So that's a net positive for what this vehicle can do in terms of hauling adults around. But yeah, that's pretty much it in terms of my thoughts on the vehicle, at least physically. As far as some of the more esoteric or personal things about it, I would say in general, pros, I love the fact that it's an electric vehicle. Cons, I hate the fact that it only has a 230-mile range. That's very annoying. I wish it had a little bit longer of a range, but I can live with it. There were only a few instances where I was ever scared that I might not be able to actually charge up. I got to a location that said there was a working charger, and guess what? It didn't work. And then now I'd have like very little energy to get to a new location. So that only happened a couple times, but that's not Volkswagen's fault. It's just the nature of owning an electric vehicle in the United States in this day and age. Hopefully someday that'll change and we'll have a much more robust electric infrastructure. And I'm not saying I can't get anywhere I want in the current infrastructure, but there are a couple times where you have to be much more mindful of where you can go and how far you can go. I say probably the worst instance of it was when I was driving through the Grand Canyon, and there's a charging stop before you enter the Grand Canyon Park, and then after that there's really nothing. And there aren't like any fast chargers around there, so you just kind of plan your route in such a way where you can kind of circle your way back to get to a fast charger. It's nothing too crazy, but it is annoying. I wish there were a few more kind of fast charging stations in the Midwest, in the Rockies area. But otherwise, though, really good vehicle. And again, if it weren't for the weird touchy brake issue, I would probably be keeping it. But I'm hoping that VW gets their act together and they're able to fix it. And if it's not affecting your vehicle, then great, all the better. I wish you all the best with regard to the use of your vehicle. Some of the other things that have occurred over the year that I've been owning it have been the sort of minor celebrity status that I've gotten through owning the vehicle, wherein literally everywhere I go, someone wants to talk to me about it or talk about the fact that they owned a VW Buzz. I mean, I think even this morning I was talked to about somebody about it. So again, everyone loves talking about this vehicle, talking about their ownership of old VW Bugs, and so that's really a awesome, wholesome thing that comes with owning this. So if you're okay with being a little mini minor celebrity, then there you go. You can get that celebrity status through owning it. I don't think there's any other vehicle except for maybe your high end Porsches and Lamborghinis and stuff like that that are going to get you the same level of attention. There's, of course, vehicles that will get you negative attention, such as anything made by Tesla. But as far as a inexpensive way to get net positive attention, you can't beat the Buzz. Hey, so I just wanted to get a couple additional shots. Like I said, this thing is cool. I didn't really use it much, but I'm glad it exists for people who need it. I will say, though, that its primary purpose for me is to act as a lint trap for all the kind of debris and things that fall down in between my lap, because this is where it goes. So easy enough to clean out, but again, it catches a lot of dirt. Another thing I want to point out, and it's not necessarily a con or a pro, it's just something to keep in mind, is that if you go with this white interior, it collects dirt and it gets discolored very quickly. So you can see there's some discoloration. There's some over on the other chair. And so again, it's just, I would cover these seats if you don't want them to get too discolored. I would cover the steering wheel if you want to keep it in its pristine condition. But that is something to keep in mind, especially if you've got kids. Looking back here, thankfully it's not too bad. But again, like I said, any sort of scuffs, dirt, or whatever are going to show up really visibly very quickly on this white interior. As far as sort of interior things, there's this little shelf here, which I'm not 100% sure what its purpose is. I guess you can put some change in there, but I wish this was either bigger or had more functionality to it. I mean, it's good for what it is. I never really used it. Down here in the doorway, I do like this extra space behind here. I use this a lot. This is great for maybe like an umbrella or something. I put my coins and change typically in this spot because it kind of, kept it very well contained. And then usually whatever I put in here, bottles or something, junk, that's where that lived. So again, I just want to point out just how small this is. I mean, you can barely fit a phone in here with the case on. So it's just really small. It provides no like charging functionality of just placing in there, so it's missing a lot of functionality. If they had put maybe something here that could charge a phone, that would be cool, or maybe something down here in the center area. But just to have this space to hold a phone, it's very tight, and you can't really put like a big phone in it. Like I've got a folding phone and it barely fits in there. So another thing to keep in mind. As I mentioned before, again, I wish these seats were removable, or at least easily removable. Obviously, you can undo the bolts and whatnot. They don't recommend that, obviously, not without being a mechanic, right? Because you never want to mess up your very expensive vehicle. But again, if these seats were just as removable as the back seats, that would be a net positive for people who want to use the entire cargo area of the van. In fact, honestly, I wish the front seat was removable because I could use that space as well because I wasn't using it. Or if these seats, were turnable and could turn in, that would be another great addition to a vehicle thing. I know there's some modifications you can buy in the aftermarket that allow these to turn around, but I wish it was built in to the actual vehicle itself. I also wish this was a pop top camper roof, but again, it doesn't exist. You can get it on the third party modification market scene, but nothing built in from Volkswagen, unfortunately. Well, anyways, this is going to be my last episode of Volks Vanventure vlogs, unless I happen to get another Volkswagen Buzz, which I haven't ruled out. We'll see. But who knows? Maybe my next adventure will be with a Chrysler Pacifica or a Toyota Sienna, or Kia actually has a pretty cool van on the horizon. So maybe, just maybe, I'll be doing videos about that vehicle. But anyways, that's been it for me for now. Thank you again so much for watching these episodes. I hope you've enjoyed them. If you happen to own a Buzz, I hope you enjoy the Buzz. If you're thinking about getting one, I still highly recommend them. I think they're just a fantastic vehicle to own, and they have brought me almost nothing but joy, except for the issues that I've had to deal with. So again, I hope that you consider getting one despite these issues, and that you don't have the same issues I did. But if you plan on waiting, now it's not a bad idea to wait. They're only going to get better with time, and so you can always wait till the next model year. 2026 is right around the corner, so who knows? There might be something amazing coming, or you might want to wait till 27. I don't know. A lot of options going on because they could definitely increase the range and affect the issues with the braking, and then any other sort of minor niggles that we've talked about today. Those could be addressed and make this vehicle that much better. All right, well, this has been Dave Murphy for Volks Vanventure Vlogs, and I will see you when I see you. Bye, everybody.